Hello, and welcome to today's VC Task Force Gary's Picks event for investors and startups. My name is Joel Rosenberg, Director of Business Development and Strategy for VC Task Force. VC Task Force is an organization where the venture community comes together to address critical issues, provide workshops, and other events for the benefit of the venture and entrepreneurial communities. VC Task Force provides access to an extensive ecosystem of VCs, corporate VCs, and angel investors. You may ask questions anytime during the event, and time permitting, they will be answered live after today's interview. It is my pleasure to welcome Gary's Picks host, Gary Fowler. Gary is CEO and co-founder of GSD Venture Studios, an award-winning growth stage AI venture studio. Gary is also co-founder of the award-winning AI startup Eva.ai, as well as the investment firm DY Investments. Today, Gary will be interviewing special guest, Alex Panagides. Sorry, Alex, just butchered your name. CEO Panagides.
Yeah.
CEO of and co-founder of mxHero. mxHero provides an innovative technology that captures corporate email content and helps organizations secure, manage, and understand it in unique ways. mxHero customers are businesses of all sizes, ranging from small law firms to 20,000 plus employee enterprises. Their services are sold in a SaaS subscription model. Alex describes himself as a big picture thinker with proven ability for detailed execution focus. Alex deploys a multidisciplinary approach to challenges. He's an experienced software developer with strong communication skills, a team leader, and a product inventor. Take it away, Gary.
No, great to be here. Thanks, Joel. Great having you here, Alex. And from where are you today? Are you in Cyprus?
I am in Cyprus. Yes.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about it. How in the world you went to George Washington University and you got your degree in English and economics?
Right.
Now, how in the world did you go out? You started working at the World Bank as a consultant, where you're doing econometric studies on population, large data sets. But how did that go down through? So using these statistical packages, probably Minitab actually in those days, SPSS.
SAS and SPSS, yeah, SAS and SPSS.
And when you were going down through and doing that, did you just one day say, oh, I want to be a software developer? Did you wake up and, it was one day you had this kind of a aha experience with a light bulb and say, I think I'm going to be a developer? Did that happen then when you were at the World Bank?
Yeah, no, it did not. That's a good question, Gary. It's funny, I remember, so you and I are of the age where we accompanied kind of the entry of computers into the world. I mean, besides those mainframes stuck in, Bell Labs or something, talking about computers entering really the public. And I remember I was like in 7th grade or even 6th grade, and I saw in the corner this, I think it was a Commodore PET computer. Had a tiny
Super
screen.
PET 9000. Super PET 9000
exactly.
with a 8050 disk drive. I had one of them.
Yes, with those huge floppies. And and I remember just seeing that cursor, and it was like, for the moment of seeing that cursor move across the screen, I fell in love with the whole idea of computers. The reality is, we didn't have a lot of access to computers. It wasn't something, that you get, and they weren't powerful. And at a very young age, at 13, really, there was really, software didn't really exist. I mean, there were no games. Of course, I wanted to play a game. Yeah, you had to write that stuff. And there was that one moment that I was in a bookstore, and I saw this book about assembly language programming. I knew that would be like the fastest, if I wanted to build a graphical game or anything close to it, I would have to learn a language like that. And I ended up creating a game which even to me right now, it sounds crazy, in assembly, a little game in assembly for my Commodore 64 computer at the time. And then it kind of went by the wayside, and I really liked language. So I was studying in university, English literature. I said, you have to read books. How bad can this be? These are good books. So I was just enjoying myself. But then I started thinking I probably need to get a job after university. So I need something more concrete. And then I went into econometrics, and getting into the World Bank. I actually got into it as an undergrad, which was very difficult at the time. You really needed a PhD. But I knew somebody at the World Bank, and I said, Katerina, just, she said, just come in. I'll get you by the, past the guards, get in here and just go around to people's offices and ask if they need a research assistant. And I had, some of these computers back then, and computers are becoming super important in everything, right? But you had a generation that didn't know how to use them. So they really needed to leverage the younger people who know how to use them. And that got me in. That got me into the bank. When I knew once I was in, I would be in, for essentially as long as I would want to be. And we were working with, because this is the World Bank, they have access to really big data, right? Like census data, like massive data sets. And I found myself, doing big data analysis, using these statistical packages on social indicators, economic indicators, really leveraging my econometrics, which, didn't know was kind of setting myself up for where we are today, right? Big data, AI, even I kind of thought English, is that what's going to be the most important? Turned out to be one of the most important skills that I picked up. And nowadays, they say the biggest language, the biggest programming language of the future is English, right? As we start talking and programming through, kind of generative AI, and with these large language models, the ability to prompt engineer is, a large part your command of the English language. Yeah, it was a curious
And so
route
why did
to
you, so
where
you
we are.
did that, you went to the World Bank. What happened? Why did you decide all of a sudden just to go to Brazil? Would you wake up one day and say, oh, I found this company, Nova, I think I'm going to move to Sao Paulo?
Yeah, well, I was actually born in Brazil. So my dad opened up the World Bank office in Brazil. So he was prior 10 years he had left the World Bank, and 10 years later I had entered.
Oh, so you had
Um,
an in at the World Bank.
I had you'd think so, but they have such strong rules against nepotism that I had to prove over and over again that I had no relatives, nobody, in the World Bank. But of course, there are people that we knew, right? So that got me in the door. Once I was in the door, I had to find my own path. But that got me. I was born in Brazil as a result. Didn't really speak the language because I had left when I was very young. And I left the World Bank because World Bank it's as they say, it's a great place to be from. It's if you have some innovative or entrepreneurial interests, you're not going to be at the World Bank. Although there is a lot of interesting work going on there. And I just had to, spread my wings and head off, and went to Brazil to spend 6 months, and that ended up being 20 years. Started a company. That company did become one of Brazil's largest email providers, technology providers for telecoms, et cetera, in the Brazilian market. And then after that, we wanted to go kind of global. We had some global ambitions, and knew that to go global, we would have to, come to the U.S. And that's what we did. We came back, started mxHero, and we had a vision for what can be done with this, this legacy technology that is email, but is so vital to organizations, but is suffering, security, et cetera, all these other issues. And it's such an immense source of information. Talk about the largest chat technology that there is. That's the amount of potential information inside of email, which is untapped, goes into archives and sits there as a black box. Nobody, there's no real way to tap into it. That became somewhat the mission, for mxHero. And then along comes, it is LLM technology, generative AI, really allowing us to now have a technology that could actually understand all of that content, and allow us to essentially talk to our email repository, talk to our emails, and have a conversation with it, and elicit, right, bring out all of that intelligence, all of those experiences, all that history, institutional knowledge that's buried in email.
So when you went down through and did that, so Nova, you spent a few years, you started that as a co-founder, then you ended up with what, chairman? Is it still in existence today? You're chairman of the board?
No, I'm not. We sold that. It's new management, new owners. So I've exited out of Innova. Yeah, full on mxHero.
Well, that's good, right? That's good. It's always good to have an exit.
It is. It is.
So what it made you decide to go to Cyprus? Did you just like, so you went to Brazil. What made you decide to go to Cyprus? Because you were in San Francisco, correct?
Yes. So after we started, mxHero started, in 2011. We started the company. We incorporated. This was from the U.S. Yeah, San Francisco office in San Francisco to this day. And we found a very strong market for our services in Japan, and started seeing the same potential in Europe. So we needed some feet on the ground here, so that's what took myself here. It was an easy decision because half of my family is from Cyprus. Cyprus is an EU country, so it was a good kind of beachhead for our European expansion.
And so were there many cultural differences when you came over or not? Did it take a while to get used to it?
Well, now when you have my dad, who was more Greek than Greek, because, he was kind of like the, big fat Greek wedding father, right? As far as Greek, everything good was from Greece. Every word, had a Greek origin. So I grew up with that.
Every word had a Greek origin. That's right. That's what they say.
Yeah, I mean,
and all the art, the cradle of medicine, everything came from Greece.
The cradle of anything good was
probably
he
cars
always
were
tied it all
rarely
in.
came
Yeah.
with it. Yeah, Henry Ford probably had some Greek connection somewhere, right?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody was related to Greece somehow. It probably are, kind of, we go through their 23andMe, right?
Yeah.
But it is a cradle civilization, right? But anyway, so yeah, it wasn't really a big shift for us, just because of, again, we moved in here, and I have, as in these kind of Mediterranean cultures, family is a huge thing, and you have your cousins and your everything that third cousin's considered your cousin, right? So you just have this, you come into this environment of which, really essentially surrounded by family. And let's also explain that Cyprus is a small place, right? It's sub 1 million. So you can go through halfway around the Bay Area, and you've gone through more of the population than Cyprus. So it's easy to it wasn't hard. In other words, it was pretty easy. I mean, there's of course there's cultural differences, but these are, it's Europe, and there's and American culture, for all of us who have lived abroad or traveled abroad, is so pervasive and powerful, even to this day, that a lot of their references are, you talk about the same movies, you talk about the same, everything is Netflix, and it's all the same.
And do you watch Netflix over there? Do you watch Netflix?
Yeah, of course. There's everything is global.
That's fantastic. And so as you're going down through in the mxHero, of course, people don't realize, we have a lot of challenges with our email today. We are in a state of infobesity. We're inundated with messages. So, being able to control, use, and analyze those emails is important, but then also having these hyper intelligent assistants to be able to help us make decisions, because we're just, the average person, I've said this many times, is about 300,000 items in the personal cloud. The entire web in 1996 was 257,000 websites. We have more information in our personal cloud than the entire web in 1996. The challenge is, in Alex's world, it's following the same trajectory. That means doubling every year. In 5 years, you're going to have 10 million items. We can't find things that are there. So, we're in psychology, they call it learned helplessness. When you're inundated with so much, you freeze. So how is that?
I
How,
mean,
what do you think? So you're going after that problem and, being agnostic enough to work with any email management system. How can it, or program, how can we resolve these issues?
yeah. Well, you're right. And it's not going to, a lot of people are thinking, when Slack was coming up, that email is going away. It's not. It's actually continues to grow. And it does tend to be still, one of the most effective advertising mediums. So that's going to guarantee you're going to be hammered with, just the volume of email is incredible. It's also the number one threat vector. So a huge threat to companies. But again, you can't survive without it at the same time. So absolutely, it is we are overwhelmed with the email content. Um, it there's been a lot of great work around just the spam component, right? So I think Google and a lot of these companies have really there was a moment there that the spam issue was becoming just overwhelming. Email's useful enough, but like you said, it's very hard to find your way. So I think there's kind of two core problems with email. One is the volume, the sheer volume. How do you find stuff, right? And then the other one is we need to summarize it. There's also too much that, you know, wouldn't it be nice if you could just say, hey, email, just give me in bullet points the most important items of my inbox today or of this week about this subject. That was kind of impossible to do until now. And we know this because we've been working with LMAI for the past, since it really kind of entered the scene more than a year ago. And we finally have a technology that can understand human communication essentially at a human level and look at that information and really do those two things. Find exactly what you mean in natural language expression and synthesize it, right? I mean, human beings, we're summarizing machines. When we look at a tree, we don't see the leaves and the branches, we just see the tree. So we need things broken down, summarized, and just simplified. And amazingly, there is this technology that we can bring to bear that can do these things and really make. I think it's transformative. I think it's transformative not only to the individual, but it's also transformative to organizations because really organizations, think about it, all of that communication that's been happening over the email stream that is still there, but and holds really the collective conscious of the organization, all of the relationships, all of the conversations, the ideas, everything that's expressed. Imagine if you could tap into that like it was one brain and talk to it, right? That's what we're talking about. We're talking about really bringing the organization alive through its memory.
Well, you're right. It's, the problem is we only remember what we, you know, there could be something 10 o'clock in the morning. You don't remember at 5 o'clock in the afternoon because you're so inundated 300 emails later. Right. And that's the problem. And then the other thing is losing things that are really important to you. They're digital
Absolutely.
treasures, right? All these nuggets of information that are out there to be
Buried
able to
in this, yeah.
summarize them. You're right, summarize it, but also thing is take action on the email. It may be something that could be using a digital employee or digital worker to take action on something that needs to be forwarded or a meeting needs to be scheduled, a Zoom, checking your calendar to make sure you're available, setting up the meeting, getting it set, providing the backup material so you have it in front of you to be able to read. Those things are important. And as we we move down in this information society, and we start dealing with head on the infobesity problem, we're going to start to see these tools come out for everything, by the way. It's not going to just be for email,
absolutely.
where we're inundated with information. So, so if you look at the population of our planet, most of the folks in the first world have this challenge of infobesity because I talked to a CEO of a company that told me, for me with my email, I started about 2 years ago. And I said, what did you start? He said, well, if something was 2 years old, less than 2 years old, or more than 2 years old, I would erase it. I would get rid of it. I deleted it. Then he told me about 6 months later, he said, well, that's still too much. I'll take everything that's less than a year old and I'll keep it and I'll get the stuff older and I'll get rid of it. And he did that. Then he told me he went down to 6 months. And he said, I had the same thing. He said, now he's down to 3 months, but he thinks he's going to go to 1 month. And I said, what about all the stuff you have out there? He said, you don't understand. I can't find it. It doesn't matter. So I'll archive this stuff. I'll keep it or delete it because I don't need it. Like I can't, I'm overwhelmed. So I think, that problem you're addressing is right on target. But the other thing is like having a Ferrari in the garage, you got to get it out there in front of these folks. And, we got
Actually,
to
the
get.
problem you've described is super accurate, and that's about 50% of our business right there. Allowing so companies have retention policies, right? Amazon has 3 months of retention policies, so they're cutting things off after 3 months. The challenge is, and we've worked with companies like Airbnb and Intuit, et cetera, is when you do that cutoff, not to get rid of the important stuff, those gems, or
Well,
more
that's
importantly,
and
regulated
it's basically been
record.
time-based and not
Yeah.
value-based, right? It's been
Right.
time-based and not value-based, and it makes zero sense because those digital treasures could be something that you're going to need for a court document at some time.
Totally. You need to have that actually for regulation. These are record. And so that was, certainly what we did for Airbnb, allowing them to save those little gems, those important emails, outside of their kind of retention conveyor belt that was, would destroy things after, a certain amount of time. So totally. And the other service that we provide, like you said, the proactive, right? Email. So again, about 50% of our business is the emails coming in and auto sorting. So one of our customers, Abercrombie and Fitch, having their orders come in and have them automatically sorted. So not somebody, is going to have to do all this triage into the appropriate folders for the, particular buyer. That's, it's the automation, and it just becomes so much more effective when you have something that has a, almost a human intelligence to do it for you. So we are really, like you said, the human brain cannot deal with all this information. You're talking about email, but then you have to throw on top of that WhatsApp and everything else. We're being hit from every single side. So is there a way we can, I mentioned this once with you, have an exoskeleton, right, to make us more powerful, right? Something that we can, couple to our brains and make us super human, to be able to, work with the amount of information that we have to deal with in an effective way. So that really making it so that you are empowered, right? Having the because all that information, a lot of information is vital. I mean, it's not only important, it's vital, but how do you, get that signal out of all the noise? And I think we have the tools. We do now have the tools and technology that can do that.
Yeah, no, that sounds like Skylink.
Right.
Oh,
That's why
we're
we
all
got
connected
let's see where this
together in
goes.
an
Right.
exoskeleton, right? All of a
Right,
sudden,
right.
you move because I didn't say something right. Now it's, but these are the challenges we have that we need to address because this infobesity problem is not going to go away anytime soon.
No, it's gonna
If
get
you
worse.
look at corporations, amount of data the corporations that we have on the planet Earth actually is grown at about 68% per year. Today, it's estimated 123 zettabytes, which if you took CDs or DVDs and stacked them one on top of another today, it will go 94 times between the Earth and the Moon. It's expected by 2025, we're going to have 175 zettabytes of data on the planet.
That's
So
unbelievable.
this problem is growing about 68% per year. We need to go down through and solve it sooner than later. And we need to be able to democratize the opportunity to make this world a little bit better place. So
Absolutely.
in closing, what would you say, final words to startups that are out there around the world that are looking at starting a company, and secondly, find messages to corporations that are out there?
If one, don't lose hope, or for the corporations, AI, a useful application of AI. I think part of it we're still kind of the way to see. How can we leverage this to corporate advantage? This is coming. This is real. This is here, and it's going to be good for the individual all the way up to the larger corporation, and for other startup people looking to do their startup. And part of this, Gary, was you that tapped me, that dialed me into a book that's kind of a classic now I had missed, which is like the Startup Manual, and that was, before you really launch into whatever you're going to build, talk to people, like go out there, get feedback, and really get a resonance that you know that this is a product, this is not a delusion, this is a vision. And just affirm that product before you put all the sweat equity and work and et cetera, tears to get it out there. It's really easy. It's really fun to kind of think of something, oh, people will love this, but just check. And really get, and you want that product that is the painkiller. You don't want the vitamin, right? So look for that, and it'll make it a lot easier.
Yeah, thanks for taking your time, Alex. Joel?
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, great information, Alex. Very timely for the audience here. And thanks, Gary, for another great interview. Thanks, Alex, for your participation. We'll look forward to seeing all of you back here in about 2 weeks or so for another edition of Gary's Picks. Until then,
Thank you.
Stay healthy, stay happy, and Happy New Year, everybody. Take care now.
All right.
Happy New Year.
Take care.
All right,
Bye-bye.
take care. Bye.